Cosmere can be a confusing place.
From allomancy to surge binding, there's a lot to look out for.
We're your hosts and escorts to the realms. I'm Griff.
And I'm Alex.
And this is the Silverlight Guide to the Cosmere.
Welcome back.
Indeed.
Today, we are going to talk about Brandon Sanderson's secret project.
Number 2.
Numero dos.
Yes.
For a brief moment, though, I would like to look up how to say hi in Danish, because we have a surprising percentage of people listening to us from the Netherlands.
Oh, all right.
Pronounced just like hi in English, this is the simplest and most common way to greet someone in Danish. All right. Hello. Hi. Sorry. It told me to say hi and I said hello.
I know. I was confused.
Yep. And bienvenue to the French-speaking people in Canada. Got some of them.
All right. I wonder if that's where we got hi from as a greeting.
From the Danish?
Yes. Because it doesn't seem to relate to hello in any way.
Does it not?
I mean, it doesn't seem to. I'm not saying it doesn't, but it doesn't seem to. Hello and hi are quite distant from each other.
Developed from Middle English hi, similar to hey and ha.
Interesting.
All terms to call attention. They're short and easy to say.
And then how for the Native Americans.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure some tribes, not all.
Right.
I'm just saying, like, beginning with H, ending with a vowel, and being single syllable seems to be a pretty standard greeting among all humans.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yes.
Anyway.
Secret Project 2.
Yes.
Which is the Frugal Wizard's Guide to Medieval England.
Was it England or Europe?
Wow. Now you got me guessing. Pretty sure it's...
Well, I thought it was England first, but then you said Europe. So now
Did I really?
Yes, you did. Earlier. So now I'm confused.
Did we say guide? It's okay. Here it is.
A wizard's the Frugal Wizard's Guide.
No.
Oh.
Handbook.
Oh, okay. Handbook.
The Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England.
Okay. That's a much longer title than I remember it being.
Or, if you'd like to do an acronym, it's WHASM. Okay. Our other reviews started with a brief discussion of the story.
Right.
And then our thoughts.
Are we keeping this spoiler free, or we're spoiling?
Well, I mean, we'll keep the first. We'll put in spoilers. Let's keep we'll do our little what we thought of it.
Okay.
And then we'll go into spoilers.
I enjoyed it for the most part. It was a little slow to start. I'll say that. I was not necessarily the biggest fan of how it began.
Sure. So a guy wakes up in a clearing.
Yes.
And he doesn't know who he is or
No.
why he's there, and quickly discovers that he is not from that time period, and all he has is a burnt book, which is...
He doesn't even have a burnt book. He has a few pages.
Burnt pages, sure.
Yeah.
And it's from the Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England.
Right.
And Sanderson said that he has had the idea for the Frugal Wizard's Handbook for a long time, and he didn't have something to put it with. And then he did, and here we are.
Right.
And throughout the course of the story, which is largely about redemption, we'll talk about that later with themes.
Right.
He discovers who he is.
Yes.
Learns why he's there. And...
with a few false starts. And
that's pretty much without spoiling anything. Okay, so I thought, I don't know, it was all right.
It wasn't bad. I mean, here's the thing. You're never going to get a bad story with Brandon Sanderson.
That's fair.
I'm not saying that it's to everybody's taste, but you're never going to get a badly written book, at least.
I will generally agree with that, given the quality of Brandon Sanderson's work.
Right.
So you probably won't regret reading it.
No.
What was your score? What's your score for it?
6.5 to 7 out of 10.
Yeah, it's sitting there for me too. And for those of you following along with what that rating means, that's like, if you've got genre interests, you'll probably it
sits in a weird place for the genre.
It does, and we are going to get into that.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things affecting my rating, which is no matter which genre you put it in, because it can belong in like a couple.
Yes,
it's still going to be weird within that genre.
Yes, so again, you're not going to regret it.
No,
but and
there were some parts of it that I really, really enjoyed.
Okay.
Like, mostly they were little parts, like when he's just kind of living life with like the people that he ends up with and things like that.
Sure.
Like just the smaller, more human moments.
Yeah. I think I think we should probably just jump into spoilers here.
Yeah, I think we probably should.
And
I think this is a difficult book to talk about without spoilers.
It sure is.
That's one of the main things, is that it's hard to even summarize this book without getting into
major spoilers.
Major spoilers, yeah.
Major spoilers. Captain spoilers, Colonel spoilers.
Lieutenant spoilers.
Yes. I'll also say light spoilers for Project Hail Mary.
Okay.
The reason being is that I just finished reading that.
Gotcha.
And
so you might be referencing it in regards to this book.
Quite a lot. And I'll tell you up front, Project Hail Mary is a 9.5 out of 10 for me.
Nice. Okay.
Which my scale, that means I would recommend it to almost anyone.
Right.
Anyone and everyone, with or without genre interest.
I have been wanting to read The Martian by Andy Weir.
Sure.
I have not seen the movie yet.
I have seen the movie and it was a great movie. So
I've heard that, and I wanted to give the book a try as well,
sure.
Though I might see if I can find an audiobook version of it.
Sure.
But anyway.
So, spoilers.
Right.
This book sits, I guess, in the middle of sci-fi and fantasy.
Yes, it absolutely does.
And I hate it.
Oh, interesting.
The reason I hate that fact is because I think this book would have been so much better one way or the other.
But I don't think the plot would have actually worked had it been pure fantasy.
You're right. It wouldn't have been the same book. I realize that. But I don't think it lacked an emulsifier that brought the two parts together for me. And
okay, you know what it lacked for me?
What's that?
The thing that made it somewhat difficult to read for me,
sure,
is that there is not a significant redempting point for the main character.
Agreed.
I'm not saying the redemption doesn't happen. It does. But it's so spread over the book that you never really feel like he gets there.
I agree. And it lacked. We're so used to Sandra Lynch's. And I think maybe we're spoiled, but
it's also something of Brandon Sanderson's books that we have come to expect, because he does include them in most books that he writes.
Yeah. And maybe because if you think about the Way of Kings review we did with Generic Entertainment, Nathaniel, he said, if every book has a Sanderlanche, it's tiring. So,
which I get. And I mean, on a macro scale, I agree. I think that if every single book I ever read ever had a Sanderlanche, then yes, it would be exhausting. With Brandon Sanderson, if I'm going into reading a Brandon Sanderson piece, I'm going to expect a Sanderlanche.
And there were moments that were Sanderlanche-ish.
Right.
The moment when... What was her name? What was the main girl's name? Gwen?
Oh, fuck.
The names were difficult for me. Not saying that they wouldn't be for other people or that they would be for other people.
Right.
I don't remember the main dude's name.
I don't remember either. I don't remember the main girl's name.
I feel bad for that.
I mean, I think, well, he has a rather forgettable name, does he not?
Right?
Because of like the period he come, like the, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like the dimension he comes from.
It's Earth. Right.
Well, yeah.
So the whole plot point here is that there are infinite dimensions that you can travel downstream from Earth, and they are of Earth with at least small changes, and there's infinite many of them. And some of them are inhabitable, and some of them have people that speak English. And so these companies have the technology to send you back, and you can be your own wizard. And I will say one of the best parts about the book is the actual Frugal Wizard's Handbook, which they have. So I listened to the audiobook. I know Griff listened to the audiobook.
Yes.
They have Kate Redding do that part. And that was the most entertaining part, with exception occasionally. That was the most interesting part. It was the world building done in a clever way.
Yes.
That I really enjoyed. It was almost as if he took the epigraphs from his Cosmere books and made them maybe a little bit more like a whole chapter or a few pages instead of just the few sentences at the beginning of the chapter.
Right.
Right. And I loved that a lot. And was it Sentient Bananas? Or why can't I have a
universe populated by sentient bananas?
It was great. It was dumb. It was just dumb enough to be great. What was the dude's name?
I didn't find out because all the back blurb things just say a man awakens in a field with no memory of who he is.
Brilliant. So Project Hail Mary. It's comparison time a little bit.
Okay.
So a dude wakes up in a spaceship, doesn't remember who he is, doesn't remember why he's there, but the reader from the back blurb knows that he has to save the world.
Okay.
It's called Project Hail Mary because the spaceship is the Hail Mary.
Right, that makes sense.
The dude's last name is Grace. Hail Mary full of grace.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Great job, Andy Weir.
Andy Weir is not subtle on the naming there.
Rylan Grace. Brilliant name. Freaking love it.
It's about as subtle as Professor Umbridge.
You're not wrong.
Because here's the thing. Okay, somebody talked to me before. And this I knew. This I had already picked up. They talked about the whole Umbridge thing.
Yeah.
You know, meaning to take umbrage with something is to dislike it or something. People don't hit on the Dolores part though.
Dolores.
Well, Dolores. It's like
sure.
it's a pun on Dolores, which means dour and and
which comes from dolor, which is Latin for sad.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
And so everybody picks up on the umbrage, but I don't think a lot of people pick up on the Dolores part.
Right.
But it's about that level of naming, which is
I will agree with that, but when you come across it organically, it feels good to realize it.
Oh
to make
yeah,
that connection.
Don't get me wrong. It's
and the stakes in Frugal Wizard, I didn't care. I really didn't care. I don't know if I just didn't make the connection between the fact that the bad guys were using luck to get rich in the real world.
That I didn't care about. The more personal antagonist moments when they're going up against that world's version of the Vikings.
That I cared way more about.
Defending their home about?
Yes.
Yeah, that I cared about. The problem, I think, with the end, with the you know, the...
His name was Johnny, right?
Oh, yeah, it was Johnny. Yeah, because they keep talking, like, the guy, the other boxer that he faced up against.
Yeah.
But, like, honestly, I would have been more invested had it turned out that he actually was a cop.
I agree.
Rather than...
a low-level bouncer that...
like, low-level bouncer and doorman, like...
And I have to say... being inspired by Project Hail Mary, and I'm really not going to say any more spoilers than this. Sanderson took the reveal from Hail Mary and swapped it. He introverted it.
Okay.
And you ended up with a character that was bad doing the right thing because it was right. And I really don't want to spoil it, but it was like he took Project Hail Mary and said, hey, what if the person was this instead? And then that was this book. But I mean, because Sanderson, he does that with stories. Like Tress of the Emerald Sea was, what if Buttercup went and saved Wesley?
Right.
And that's fine. I'm personally writing a book that's, what if Kelsier was not amicable or not friendly enough, and he was not that he was evil, but that he was, as one of the main plot points, what if Kelsier was bad? Right.
Well, Kelsier is kind of bad.
He is kind of no, but I mean, like not in a way that people
bad.
Can not in a way that people can cheer for.
I was about to say overtly bad.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know.
Okay, here's the thing that I will say.
Okay.
It starts picking up when you hear Loki's voice.
Lagna?
Lagna's voice, yes. Lagna, Loki, I mean, same person.
Sure.
That's where it starts picking up, in my opinion. I believe that's chapter 17.
I'm shocked at the specificity.
It starts picking up about that point because you finally get the idea that there is something supernatural going on here.
That's true.
Which does seem to not necessarily mesh with the sci-fi all that well, but it didn't actually bother me.
I guess for me, it felt contrived. I don't know. Like, well, so it also struck me today that he was playing on maybe the idea, that argument that if multiple universes exist and God exists in one, then God exists in all of them.
Well, God, yes. Not gods.
Well, I mean,
it's not actually the same argument.
I'm not saying that he's taking that verbatim. I'm saying he may have been inspired by that idea.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because I was about to say those are two very different arguments.
Yes.
And I will say that...
Say that what?
It was... like, we were talking about this before. It sits in a really weird place.
Yep.
In genre.
It does.
Because you get the sci-fi with the plating and the armor pieces that Johnny has on him. And then, of course, you get the magic from Lagna and all that. And it was interesting that he didn't try to blend them.
Yes. Yeah. And he even states near the end that Logna could have given him back his plating.
Right. If he had asked the...
And I had asked myself that question too. I was like, why doesn't he just ask? I thought that was where that was going.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
And it probably would have been more satisfying if it had been where it was going.
I will say one of the things that kind of pulled me out of the story was the fight at the very end.
Between the two boxers?
No, not even that one. The thing going on in the background. The war.
Oh, between the Vikings and the townspeople?
Like...
And sort of the townspeople and / the bad dudes, grunts.
Yeah, I don't know. It was not a bad book. It was a weird one, though.
It was weird.
I think that's the problem.
It wasn't just sci-fi and fantasy. It was sci-fi, fantasy, and thriller. And I don't know. Hard to recommend.
I will say I enjoyed it after the god was introduced.
That was more entertaining. Maybe had it been more whimsical overall, it could have worked better. I don't know.
I don't know. It's hard to say. I think it would have worked better had he actually been a police officer.
Yeah.
Rather than conning himself off as one.
I agree.
Yeah.
Were there like a lot of flashbacks for him remembering things, or was it?
Well, okay, so you do have the flashbacks.
Yeah.
Which tell him something about his past.
Yeah. No, it was, I don't know. If you enjoyed the book, definitely go read Project Hail Mary.
And I did enjoy it. I will say that. You know what would have worked better?
What's that?
Had he had a little companion thing like robot or something along the lines to explain the rules to him rather than trying to find the pages of the book.
Sure.
I think that was also one of the things that broke my immersion, which like I get he popped into the place in a hurry.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of the advertisement. But you'd think there'd be some sort of worker.
Maybe. Yeah. There's not much to say.
I mean, no, but there's. I don't want to sell it short either, because
there were some funny moments.
There were some sweet moments as well.
Yeah. I liked the characterization of the two companions he travels with.
Yes.
And Logna. And the bit with Woden. I liked where Gwen does something. What was her? I don't know. I liked when she was like, "I defy you."
Yes,
that
I
was
like
cool.
That.
And I don't know why the things around it didn't bolster it. Like the story bits around it didn't bolster it as much for me. Yeah.
I think it would have been a better book without the secondary plot.
Of the Weirds? Was it Weirds? Weird?
No, the main antagonist.
Oh.
Like, I feel like finding out who he was, where he was, what was going on.
Yeah.
I mean, let me say this. I liked it both better as a, like, some sort of I think it would have worked better had that whole plot line not been there. Had it just been him trying to get used to the world and his place in it and figuring out what was going on.
I think I agree with that. Had it been a build up to thinking he might be able to go home, and that being like, I don't know, maybe embracing the bittersweet or even just the bitterness of not being able to go home, but realizing that he doesn't have anybody, so that, you know, staying there's really not that bad. That would have been better. So, is there anything else we can say about it?
I don't think so. I mean, I think it's a pretty straightforward story. And while I like the concept, I don't think it was necessarily executed in the best way.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe on a physical read through or on a second listen, it'll be more interesting, or I'll pick up on things that weren't there the first time.
I did like the fact that the gods were introduced as being from our world originally and having moved to this one.
Is that what that meant?
That was what the end meant, yes, where it was focusing on Logma in the epilogue.
So I thought they were bubbling up from the...
No, what it sounded like to me is that they had gone downstream effectively and then hit a wall.
Yeah, I thought they were going downstream towards our Earth, and they hit the wall of them being able to send them back.
No, that still was not... At least I don't think that's what was going on there. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be utterly wrong.
Yeah, I could be utterly wrong.
But I think thematically it does not. It's relaxing.
It's relaxing?
It's relaxing.
Oh, the dog?
Yes.
Oh, yes. I thought you were talking about the book, and I was like,
No.
I don't know where you jumped to. Yeah, he's a good boy. Yeah, okay. Well, maybe more discussion on that in the future. I think for Sanderson's works, being in the Cosmere is something that drives me reading them. So the fact that this was not in the Cosmere was
disappointing.
Yeah. Disappointing.
Yeah, I'll agree.
Yeah.
I mean, we knew it was coming to some extent.
Yeah.
But
And I don't know if disappointing is the right word. It's the book itself is solid and is definitely nowhere near the worst book I've read. It was a solid book that is probably worth a read, especially if you like the trope of the person waking up without knowing who they are. But beyond that, yeah, for Sanderson, I mean, we're big Cosmere fans.
Yep.
So just gonna get really excited for Secret Project 3 and 4. And yeah. So with that, I think we can sign off.
I mean, yeah, I think so. Like, it was a decent story. I think that if you like Sanderson's writings, or if that weird genre portal fantasy combination works for you, then read it. But
yeah. Oh yeah, would it be portal fantasy?
Yeah, it would. Absolutely.
Yeah. So sci-fi portal fantasy. Fantasy. Well, no, that falls under the portal fantasy. Anyways.
Yeah, and like it does that weird thing where it combines sci-fi with fantasy as well, but without blending the two into like
Right.
I don't know if there's a term for that, but
without blending the two?
No, with blending.
With blending the two. Emulsifying. He uses that word so much in Rhythm of War. I'm going to use it here.
That's fair. I did like it. It was not my favorite.
I had to push through, honestly, for this review. Like, had we not done this review, I'm not sure I would have finished.
That's fair.
And that's a weird thing to say about Sanderson book.
I would have always finished just with it being Sanderson.
Sure.
Like, I've read some of his short stories before, and they were quite good, but, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, and also something I did want to mention. At first, I thought this was a young adult book because Sanderson has this weird tendency in his young adult novels to give his main character a weird quirk.
Sure.
Like in the Steelheart series, the main character couldn't come up with good, like, analogies on the fly, good comparisons or sayings or things like that. And then in the Cytoverse books, the main character, she's obsessed with like legends of ancient warriors and stuff like that, and like the lines they would say, and she would come up with ones on her own and things like that. And yeah, he just has this tendency to give them weird quirks, and I noticed that with the counting thing in this book.
Yes. The rating.
Yeah. And they give a reason for it at the end, honestly, which I thought was interesting.
It was a good reason.
Yeah, no, it was fun. Yeah, it was.
Because we all have weird quirks, not necessarily ones that we say out loud, but
right, but still. So it was. Yeah, it was this weird thing of bringing in the sci-fi element and then not
meshing them.
Yeah, not meshing them. There we go. That's what I was looking for.
No, the word you were looking for was emulsify. The word you'll settle for is mesh.
Yeah, it's just he doesn't. I think that was it was actually a little disappointing because, okay, there it is. He doesn't have his main character affect the universe in any way. Because the fact is, the gods are still stuck in their universe they're in.
Yes.
And like he can stay there, and that's great, fantastic. But that's kind of what was designed to be done anyway. When
right,
he, I mean, he didn't buy it, but that's kind of the point. It doesn't change anything.
Right.
He's still sitting in a pocket dimension with gods, which is great, but it.
Right. The main reason the people were bad that we saw was that they were making money.
Right.
In the main world or on Earth Prime.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, we can do Earth Prime, Earth 2.
Sure.
Just for ease of our reference.
Yeah. For ease of our reference at the end of our review. It just, the stakes weren't there. And not that stakes always have to be high.
No, but they should at least be personally high, even if they're not objectively high.
Right.
And I don't feel like this was personally high because he wasn't actually involved with anything in the secondary plot. Like he inserted himself on the secondary antagonists.
Right.
But that wasn't actually anything to do with him originally.
Right.
And he had so many chances to step away, and
it does feel like the lady companion may have started to defy Woden even had Johnny not been around.
Right. Like you said, I think it was the stakes situation.
Yeah. So for Project Hail Mary, you have the stakes of the world. And that drives the book.
Right.
Like,
and this one didn't have any stakes. Like it I felt more stakes when we thought that he was a cop on a secret mission than what he actually turned out to be.
Yes. Yep. I agree.
And so I think that was, that was a failing insofar as you can have an ordinary person find out that they're ordinary and choose to do something extraordinary anyway.
Sure.
Like that is an option, but you have to start out with that premise.
Yeah. And so I guess, this guy was normal, found out he was normal, and then chose to not go back to Earth.
Right. And there's that too, but it's like, I don't know. It's a rough one, folks.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good. It is good. I'm not going to deny that.
There are bits you can really latch onto that make it entertaining. The weirds and Logna.
And I think that threw me as well, which is I get it's part of the whole like conceit of it being an alternate dimension, but them using just slightly off words bugged me.
I hated it. I really.
Yeah, that if you know anything about Norse language, then it's probably going to bug you.
Yeah. And I get what he was doing, but for me it didn't work.
And so yeah, I think that's it on the Frugal Wizard's Guide or Frugal Wizard's Handbook.
Yes.
I mean it wasn't bad. If you like Sanderson's writings, then give it a shot.
Yeah.
Because you'll probably enjoy it.
Yeah. If you want Jason Bourne and Project Hail Mary mixed with low stakes, that's
yeah. Well, and the fact that like there anyway, yeah,
Yep.
that's
Yep.
my review. I don't think I can say anything more.
okay. All right. You've heard it here. Griff ran out of words
At least on this book.
on this book. Okay. Oh, there's some
Oh.
yeah. No, you're fine. We can edit that out. We have that capability now. It's
Yes, we do.
2023. Or maybe we'll keep it in.
Honestly, you know what might have saved the book for me
Sure.
would have been more. Give me more from the regular world.
Yeah.
Give me more from Prime.
Yeah. That probably would have done it. And indeed, we see for Project Hail Mary a lot of the plot and the characters are in the flashbacks.
Right.
And
not even in the flashbacks. Post it
sure.
And like honestly, what would have been, you know what I would have seen happening, and this is what I predicted would have been the end, and I was proven wrong. But like, I expected him to have to make the relationship work by bouncing between both worlds.
Okay.
Because they introduced the whole thing about his energy being poison to the gods.
Oh, yeah.
I really expected him to have to be bouncing between Earth Prime and this dimension that he now has an anchor for.
Right.
And being happy with that, being able to still come visit
Yeah.
whatever her name is. I think it subverted my expectations in the weirdest places.
Yep. And maybe a little too much.
Yeah.
And yeah. And maybe if you go read Project Hail Mary, there isn't enough subversion.
Right.
But no, there is. It's not quite Last Jedi level.
Yeah, I think it was just, like you said, the stakes were just not high enough.
Yeah, I didn't worry about if Earth is involved and you say that the stakes are Earth.
Right.
In some way, then I should feel that if I were a character on Earth, like an NPC character on Earth,
right,
that would affect me.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's where now, if you say at the beginning, if you promise the readers low stakes, like, oh, this really only involves 6 characters and it's only them that are going to be affected, nobody else, and then you deliver on that, cool. If you're saying that this is bad because Earth is being affected and I don't feel Earth is actually being affected, then you've promised without the delivery.
Right.
Which I know Brandon hates doing. Why would I say Brandon like I know the guy? I know Sanderson hates doing that. But it does feel like that happened a little bit.
Yeah, it was not what I would have chosen had I been the one in charge of the story.
Sure. I think maybe, I mean, we can hypothesize all day. Had it been that the gods, for the sake of my hypothetical situation, let's assume that the gods were bubbling up from the bottom, going towards our Earth Prime.
Right.
And they stopped at that electrical thing. Or they stopped because the energy is poison, right?
Right.
Had the stakes been that the gods were like mostly evil, and the fact that Johnny destroying the machine would have let them go up further in the stream.
Right.
That would have maybe felt more stakes.
Well, I also think the whole probability thing is just like, oh, he can win lotteries. Okay.
Right.
Like, is he going to... Actually, okay, there's part of the problem as well. We don't get enough of the original world to know whether or not that's a bad thing.
Right. Because they're living in the future.
Right. Like, we can get this, guess that it's Earth, but like, is that super detrimental? Are there parts of the countries that don't use money anymore? How do you plan to game that? Like,
right.
We're not given enough for his threat to feel threatening.
Yep.
Until next time, don't panic, world hoppers.
Life before death, strength before weakness, and journey before the Frugal Wizard's Handbook to Surviving Medieval England.
Indeed.
The music you hear is Part 3, The Spirit, from Zavadilla's The Music of Elantris, produced by B-Roll Records. Available now on Apple Music, Spotify, and most music providers.
If you like what you hear and you want others to hear it as well, please leave a rate and review. It really helps us get more listeners.